How do you get to things? How do you change things? Simple, basic stuff. Some of you have been messing around with it for the last few days and have gotten pretty good with it. But I just want to show you a few things if you haven't seen or can't find them. All right. This is the general start screen, just like any other start screen. You're going to log into your account up here, where it says with your little icon. From here, you get general app settings. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Input, and I'm actually going to click Show Blue Dots so that you can see where I'm touching. All right. In your settings, you've got General, so you can actually change the toolbar from the left. You can change the color scheme. All right. Depending on how you want it. Scale, stroke, and effects right here, you want to check that on. You want to make sure that scale, stroke, and effects is on. Otherwise, what happens? Anybody remember in Illustrator if you don't have that set?
Stroke stays the same.
Stroke stays the same. So if you have a big circle with a 2-point stroke and you want to scale it down to a little circle, it becomes a little circle with a 2-point stroke, which could be bad. Okay? Input. Here you can turn on palm rejection, which you should turn on. That's so it doesn't heal your hand and draw with your hand. Double tap. That's on the pencil. You can change the double tap settings to show the color picker, deselect an object, zoom, all right, or have no action. I've turned it on to no action because I tend to tap it accidentally a lot, and things pop up, and I don't want that. But there's an option for a double tap there. All right. You can view all the shortcut functions. So I'll go over this in a second in terms of the primary and secondary and where the touch shortcut is. But all of them are right here. It explains what they are. All right. What else we got? Units. You should put your strokes to have it on points. Both of these should be on points. This is just for stroke and type. Your account, that's where your account is, and the about you don't really care about. All right. So to get started, down in the bottom left-hand corner down here, you can either click Create New or you can click Custom Size. All right. Your size, here's where we're going to change our size. We want it in inches. And your width, all right, is going to be 8.5. And your height is going to be 5.5. All right. Now down here, you want to change your color mode to CMYK. All right. That's all you have to do. You click Create File. So this is your workspace. All right. You can pinch in and out to zoom in and out, which is really nice. On the left-hand side over here, I'll go over these tools. So you have your regular selection tool. You have your direct selection tool. You have your pen tool, your pencil tool. Under the pencil tool is the blob brush. You've got your eraser, your shape tools, your type tools, which I'm going to suggest you stay away from doing type on here since we're going to go to the desktop anyway. You got your artboard tool, and then you have your picture tool, which you can bring images in. All right. Down here, you've got your fill, you've got your stroke. Those tap right through, okay? On the right-hand side, you've got your layers. You've got your properties. You've got your grids, your guides, your snapping, all that stuff right here. We have our combined shapes. This is kind of like the top half of the Pathfinder. You have your cut. You've got align and distribute. This is like the bottom half of the Pathfinder. All right. Then we have our type tools where you can outline type. Again, I would suggest for now staying away from type on the iPad. We've got our path tool. And then we've got the particular tool that is for the iPad only, which is the repeat tool, which is kind of interesting. All right. So to get started, oops, go away. All right. I'm simply going to grab the pen tool. The pen tool works just like the pen tool does in Illustrator. You tap, you tap, you tap. You can tap and bend. Okay. You can tap the beginning to get a straight line. Right. Then if you grab the direct selection tool, you'll notice this is where you can edit your points. It's super, the workflow is really good. There are aspects of it that aren't great, but the workflow is great. Down at the bottom, this little thing pops up, and I can actually click on a point, and I can cut it. I can duplicate it by hitting the plus. I can delete it by hitting the trash. So you can click on something, click the trash, and delete it. All right. As far as completing a shape, I can swap the fill and stroke here. I can single click on the fill. I can pick a fill color. All right. I can also change to a gradient if I want to. All right. To get rid of this, I find that you just tap it again. Sometimes you'll find if you end up with here and you try to tap over here, you end up with the pen tool activating sometimes. Again, selection tool, I can grab this top one here and I can rotate. I can grab a corner and I can scale. Now, undo is up here, or right up here is undo. Or you can tap with 2 fingers on the artboard, and it'll undo. I find that to be kind of convenient too. So I can also, if I duplicate this from my short menu here, let me change the color of this. Right down at the bottom, okay, again, in this little, he went away. This little guy down here, you'll see it in a sec. I can change the opacity right from here. I can change the stroke right from here. I can change the stacking order. So if I click and hold, I can drag down to change the stack, drag up, down, up, down, up. All right. I can lock the object. I can move the object. I can duplicate the object. This piece right here, if I grab both, this one right here is my grouping. So now I can group that together. Boom, it's grouped. Nope, not yet. There we go. All right, now it's grouped together. Same deal, just like in Illustrator, if I double tap, I can go inside the group. Okay, single tap out, I'm out, back outside the group. All right, so I find the workflow to be really nice that way. Pencil tool works just like it would normally. Okay, let me swap it to a stroke instead. So I can draw over here, down here, I can actually adjust the smoothing. All right, so this is your fidelity in Desktop Illustrator. So I can make it super smooth so that when I draw, it really adjusts it. You'll notice that. Let me grab everything again and just delete it. You'll notice when I'm drawing, it's correcting itself. This can be really good and it can be really bad. All right, so that's right here. All right, and then to change the stroke of that, you go over to your properties and you can adjust the stroke down here. You can simply click on the number and use your pencil up and down, or you can actually type a number in. All right, you can also do that by highlighting it. You can change the stroke right here as well. So just like Illustrator on the desktop, there are several places that you can make adjustments. All right, and really it depends on what works best for you to do that. All right. Again, I can scale this down now. Down here at the bottom, you'll see this little circle down here. When I press it, all right, there's an inner circle and there's an outer circle. Inner circle, outer circle. Can you guys see that? All right. So they all do different things. I honestly don't know exactly. I'd have to go back and look at the little thing to cheat. But I know this. If I click the center one, when I do this, I can scale it proportionally. So if you want to scale something proportionally, you press the sensor and you scale it proportionally. All right. Otherwise, you end up with whatever you want to end up with. All right. Again, duplicate, boom, or I can delete. All right. As far as repeat tools and things like that, which are kind of fun to play with, I can go here, all right, and you can draw. You can select your object. You can do mirror. When mirror's on, it's kind of interesting because as you draw, it mirrors it. Then you can do some funky things like grab the center, turn it, scale it. It's kind of weird, kind of fun. I haven't really gotten into it too deep because it's not incredibly useful. You can also go ahead and let me do it this way because this one's kind of cool. I can't lie. So here's my shape tool. If I, again, press my sensor, I can make a perfect circle. Now I'm going to go to my radial tool and I'm going to just do radial. And this is kind of cool because I can grab this little guy and I can add more or less circles. You can change the distance. All right. You can create some really interesting shapes with the radial. So that's kind of like, I kind of call that like a novelty because it's not something I find you're going to use a ton of times, but it's there for certain things that it would be super helpful with. All right. So that's sort of playing around with that. In terms of like Pathfinder stuff and combining shapes, okay, you can hover over, you can grab both shapes, and what's really nice about this is if you go to this Pathfinder area here, it gives you a preview of what's going to happen, which is kind of nice. You also have the Shape Builder tool, which you can draw and connect them. Now, the annoying part, let me double here, the annoying part about how the Pathfinder or the Shape tool works in this is it doesn't actually combine them permanently, which is kind of ridiculous because that's the point. But if I grab these two and I go here and I say, all right, let me minus front, okay, you'll notice that this still exists, see it? And I can actually still move it. Well, that's not really what I want. If I want a minus front, I want a minus front. So it works a little differently than it does in Illustrator on the desktop, and actually in a way that I don't particularly care for. Because when I want a minus front, I'm done. I don't want to have it be, two separate objects still. So that is there. And again, you have all the same. Let me go back. You have all the same ones that you would in Illustrator itself. Combine, minus front, intersect, exclude, okay? And again, it works to a degree, except it leaves that shape, all right? What else? So making a clipping mask is here, making a compound path is here, all right? So I can clip it, all right? And I end up with my clipping mask, okay? Which again, here's my mask. So generally speaking, it's nice. All right, but when you're trying to deal with an advanced illustration like we're going to be dealing with, I would stick to the drawing tools itself on the iPad, and then once you get to a certain point, you're going to slide over to the desktop. It's got to get finished on the desktop, and it's going to need to be anyway. You might find that you're like 40% done, and you're like, all right, I can't get any more done on the iPad, and you're going to slide over to the desktop. All right, the objective is to kind of play with the iPad and start with the iPad. You won't do the whole thing on the iPad. I don't think anyone's really going to do that. Most people are going to have to slide over to the desktop and wrap up a few things that they have to wrap up. Okay? You've got the eraser tool. Let me delete this guy because it's a clipping mask. So I've got the eraser, which erases. Okay? You do have the blob brush tool. Remember that the difference between the pencil tool and the blob brush tool, which is under here, is that when you draw with the blob brush tool, what you draw is not actually a line, it's a shape. All right? So with the blob brush, I could go like this, and I can let go, and once I do that, it's not a line, it's a shape. All right? The cool thing about the blob brush tool, and this is what I've been using sometimes instead of the brush tool, because the brush tool is not here yet on the iPad, is that you do get some really nice options, so I can actually change what kind of brush it is here. You can go in and adjust the size from here. You can also adjust the smoothness, and then you can go in and change what it looks like, which is similar to the brush tool in Illustrator. Okay, but again, with this, you don't get a line. When you're done, you get a shape. All right, so if you're trying to draw an outline, when you get done, it's actually a shape. You can't fill it. See that? So blob brush tool, sort of, again, another novelty device, but can be helpful in certain aspects. All right. Again, we're going to skip the type tools. As far as the image tool goes, you're going to need this because you're going to take a picture with the iPad. You click on the image. You click on photos. You can pull a photo in. It'll drop it in. You look at your layers. Okay, you have another layer here. You add layers just by hitting the plus. You click, touch and hold, and you can drag your layers up. You hit the lock to lock. You hit the eyeball to hide it. All right? When it's done, so let's say, let me get rid of this. All right? Let me go, you come down here. All right? Let me draw my pretty picture. All right? There he is. When you back out, which is the little arrow up here at the top, it's automatically saving as you're working anyway, which is really nice, and it's down here. All right. Now, if you're logging in, all right, and you can see my screen right now, I'm logged in at my account. If I open up Illustrator, all right, and again, you have to be logged in on your account on both pieces, okay? You'll look down here and you'll notice here's my drawing I just did on the iPad. All right, and then you would open this up, and the weird part about the iPad piece of it is it saves as an AIC, which is a different file type. All right, but okay, you open it up, you save it as an AI file, and that's how you're going to wrap it up. You'll be finishing it up in Illustrator. All right. So that was just a quick intro so you can get started. Again, a lot of you have already messed around and can continue messing around, and just let me know if you have any questions.